When you're working with a ponytail technique, I think what you're going to find most often is that sometimes it takes a little bit longer to map it out and to actually place your ponytails more than it does to do the cut. So again, something very quick to do once you get these ponytails in, okay? So for example, I knew the look that I wanted to go for, and today what we're going to do is we're going to work with a heavier rounded out fringe area, a more solid perimeter, and then just a very broken and shattered interior. So when you're working with a ponytail cut, when I do them in the salon, it's always something that gets a lot of looks. People will turn their head and ask, what is she doing? Is she crazy? Has she lost it? It's such a fun technique. So when we do any type of a ponytail cut, and you can do this, I've done them with one great big ponytail, I've done it with 4, I've done it with 10. There is no limit to it. So how we talk about mapping it out is that you always have to remember that wherever your ponytail is sitting is going to be the shortest part of that section, okay? So with this particular look, like I said, I want to see something that has a little bit more fullness through the interior, and again, a more solid perimeter. I was reading an article the other day and it made me so happy, but they were talking about how big hair might be coming back. So I kind of took a little bit of inspiration from that, because nothing would make me happier than going back to a point in time when nothing was more important than Great White, Bon Jovi, and Whitesnake, and the bigger the hair, the better it was. So I'm going to embrace that big hair kind of feel today. So when you're placing your ponytails, you always want to work with either a diamond section, a triangle, or even some zigzags, okay? So zigzags, the bigger the zigzag, the more chunkiness or more, I guess the right word would be disconnection that you would see within that haircut. So I chose pretty much to work with triangles and diamonds, okay? And I didn't do anything with the bottom. I just dropped that out. Again, I want that to be a little bit heavier, okay? So all of my sections, I've got a triangle in the front, and then everything else is a diamond going around, okay? Now, in the front, I want a more rounded fringe area. So by sectioning in a triangle to get that fringe section, and then pulling everything down and dragging my pony into the center, when that's released, you'll see a nice roundness to it, okay? So I prepped her hair with 2 of my favorite products in the whole entire world. So I used the Rusk Wired and also some of the Rusk Thick. So these are from our designer collection, and these have been around for a very, very long time because they are so phenomenal. In the designer collection, things are color coded. So they will either be red or blue or orange or purple. So anything that's red, or orange in this case, is going to have something called Thermplex. And what Thermplex is it's a heat activated conditioner that with the addition of a blow dryer, a flat iron, or a curling iron, it's going to drive that product into the hair. The greatest thing about it though is that you will get the benefit of product without the feel of product in your hair. I personally love that. I don't like a real heavy feel of product or really strong hairspray in my hair. So I blew it out and really kind of got the shape in there that I wanted. So we're going to start cutting. So I'm going to be using a few different blades today. So the first one that I'm going to use is going to be our Delta blade. So I don't know if any of you guys have had the opportunity to play with these. I would really, really strongly encourage it. All of our blades are going to feature a rotating thumb on them. So if that's not something that you're using in the salon now, I would definitely encourage you to pick some up and play around with them. It will take you, I don't know, maybe a couple days. Some people it takes a week or so to get used to it. But once you're used to it, the benefits are fantastic. I've been doing hair close to 32 years now. I know, crazy. And probably for the last 22 years, I've been using that rotating thumb. And it honestly has saved my shoulder, my elbow, my wrist, my back, the whole thing. So what's happening is with that rotating thumb, it's really allowing you to work in a more comfortable body position, okay? So as I'm cutting off lengthen through the top or going around the ear. I don't have to really lift my shoulder all the way up to get what I need, okay? So when you're using these, you're gonna find that your hand is able to be in a more comfortable body position. So if we take our hand, this is the interactive part of today. If you take your hand and you shake your hand out, where does your thumb fall? Your thumb naturally just kind of falls back. When you're working with a stationary thumb, it's driving that thumb forward. So now you're in an unnatural position, okay? So watch. So here's my rotating thumb. Here's my natural hand. My thumb is still staying back. So it's in a very comfortable position. And then as my hand kind of moves around, that rotating thumb is gonna stick with wherever my blade is going. Again, just allowing me to stay more comfortable, okay? So let's start. So I started with my first diamond section right on top of her head here, okay? So we're talking about, where is it? This guy right here, okay? I want there to be a lot of fullness in through the top. So by dragging this into the center of my section, that's where I'm gonna see a lot of that volume pop out. Again, wherever your ponytail sits within your section is going to be the shortest part. Now know that you can also drag this around. So say I wanted, which would be kind of silly, but it could work too. Say I wanted to have more fullness in through the front. I could drag these ponytails forward, okay? So that's gonna give me my shorter pieces, okay? I lied, we're not gonna start doing this yet. So again, I want that bottom or my length or my perimeter to be a little bit more solid, but I don't want it to be super crazy heavy. So the first thing I'm gonna do, and I already went in earlier this morning and established the length in her hair. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my Gamma blades, okay? Gamma blades are gonna be a 35 tooth texturizing blade. So what happens with these is that it's gonna create a very velvety feel in the hair. And I have to tell you, I use texturizing blades basically on everyone. And that doesn't mean that I'm dissing, you know, point cutting or using a razor. There's a ton of different tools for us to utilize in the salon, and whatever you choose to use is completely up to you. Perfect, okay? Whatever works for you, use it. This is what works for me. So I'm just gonna take vertical sections right around her head. Okay, so I'm gonna start right in the front, and I just wanna remove some of the weight. Okay, so I'm gonna come in and just slide that out, keeping my fingers moving so that I'm taking off some of that bulk in there. Okay, let's turn a little bit more this way. So just vertical sections all the way around. Nothing too crazy because I don't want to shatter that perimeter line. Coming in about halfway through the section of hair. Keeping your fingers sliding. And you're really bouncing these blades around so that you're almost bricklaying them. Sliding it right out. And again, these are the Gammas. This is a 35 tooth. You know, a lot of people have a lot of different feelings about the texturizing blades, and I think once they kind of get explained the right way or a different way, I know I hear people tell me one thing one way and then somebody else tell me basically the same thing in a different way, and I catch on a little bit more. It's just the way it processes, okay? When you're working with a texturizing blade, it's very important to take into consideration the texture of hair that you're working with, okay? I personally feel that every head of hair can have a texturizing blade in it. Even that really curly textured hair can still have a texturizing blade used within that haircut. You just have to pick the right one, okay? If I had a really curly head of hair, would I use the Gammas? Probably not. The more teeth, the more weight I'm taking out of it, And a lot of times with curly hair, there's that perfect balance of having some weight, but not too much weight. And then if you take too much of that weight off, then what happens is it really encourages that hair to kind of frizz up. We don't want that to happen. So on a curlier texture of hair, that's when I utilize my alpha blades. So the alpha blades are an 8-tooth texturizing or weaving blade. I always find that it's best when we're in the salon to not refer to these as a thinning shear. I have really, really fine hair. Now, if you tell me that you're going to come at me with a thinning shear, unless you're going to my thighs, I really don't want anything to do with it. But if you tell me that you're using a texturizing blade, that in my head immediately clicks that I'm going to have a better texture of hair. So choose your blade wisely. A lot of people will think that this alpha blade is going to take out the most amount of hair, when in all actuality, it takes out the least amount of hair, okay? Because there's a larger space in between the teeth, that's leaving more hair in each section, okay? So the alpha blade is a great, great blade for curly hair. The gammas, like I'm using on my mannequin, are pretty much my standard go-to. I find that this is a great choice for just about any texture of hair. Then, if I have somebody that has really thick hair, that's when I'm going to hit up with my beta blades. My beta blades are a 25-tooth texturizing blade, and you can see there's 2 smaller teeth or closer together teeth and 1 larger, I hate the word chunk, but it's a chunk. It's going to create a chunky feel with a velvety appearance as well. So just kind of keep that into consideration. Take your texture of hair, think about it, use the right blade, and I think that it will completely change how you feel about using texturizing blades. You know, and another great thing too is to think about this. When we're cutting with a texturizing blade, we're cutting blocks into the hair, okay? So we've got longer hair, and then we're cutting in blocks of shorter hair. That hair can't really collapse onto itself. A lot of times when you're point cutting, you're creating a V within the hair, and that V can then collapse on the hair. Okay, so if that's what you're looking for, that's great. And again, I'm not saying that that is a bad choice, but I really like that blocking. Again, for my clients and for me, it gives me some volume, it gives me some movement. My old boss always used to say that we attract the kind of client that we are. So I have a lot of shorter haired, thinner haired, chubby, funny, last minute. They're very, very similar to me. So that is how I choose my blades. So I'm going to continue on. And again, I'm just removing some of the bulk out of the bottom of this. And this technique too, honestly, you could do this on wet hair. I just chose for the live today to do it on dry hair because then you can see the complete finished look. And again, going about halfway through that section, working in a bricklaying pattern so that I don't create steps of weight in the hair. A lot of people have a tendency to want to do their texturizing where they're kind of taking a pop here, taking a pop here, going back down through the ends. And really what that's doing is, in a way, it's kind of creating steps of weight in through the hair. So by bricklaying it, we're getting a much better distribution of the weight removal. Does that make sense? Okay, last one in the front. All right, now we're gonna move in to the top. So with the top, I'm gonna first start by using my Delta. Happy Monday, everyone. I'm gonna start by using my Delta blade, which again, those are the straight blades. And I'm gonna start right in my crown section, okay? So again, remember, all of the hair that we're dealing with here first has to travel from the section to the ponytail and out of the ponytail, okay? So, even if I were to take this, and it may not be the prettiest thing, but it could be done, and cut down low here, I'm still gonna have about an inch of hair that's coming to the ponytail, and then about an inch and a half of hair that's coming out of the ponytail, okay? So you've got a lot of play. People see this and kind of get really, really nervous with it, but don't, okay? So again, using my deltas, gonna remove that length. Okay, so that one's done. So I'm gonna come into the side and I'm gonna pull it out from the center, kind of judge that length. A lot of times I'll kind of pull this as a sort of a guide, but it can be kind of tricky. So you gotta, there we go. Okay, take the length off. Her fall messed up my ponytail. Kind of judge that. And you know, don't get too wrapped up in is it precise, is it precision, because we're gonna go back through with the texturizing blade and break all of that weight off of there. So no worries. I mean, if you've got one that's this long and one that's this long, that might be a situation, but don't get too worked up about it. So those three are done. I'm gonna move to the back. I'm just gonna clamp these out of my way because I get very particular about stuff like that. Okay, so we're moving on to this one. Again, just kind of eyeball, feel, judge that length. This is truly one of my favorite cuts. Love this, love this, love this. It's fun. It's like the Sudoku of hair cutting. Like you kind of have to map it out. You have to really think about it. And then the last one. Okay, so if we were to pull these all out right now, what's gonna happen is we're just gonna have big holes of weight in through, oh, I have to do the front one. Big holes of weight in throughout that haircut. So that might not be a good thing. So of course we're gonna go in and texturize it to soften it up, okay? So remember how I said on this front one, I want to see more of a rounded fringe. So again, I have to think about where that length is gonna sit when it falls. But remember, I've got hair that's coming all the way to my ponytail and all the way to the ponytail, okay? This is also a really great technique if you wanna cut a really beautiful swoopy bang. If we were to drag our ponytail to one side or the other, it just creates that really soft, beautiful side swept bang. But I want to see more of a heavier fringe. So I'm going to judge where that length is. That's going to be long. And again, using the delta. And all of the blades will have that rotating thumb on it. So even the texturizing blades are going to allow you to work more comfortably. Anybody getting nervous yet? So I'm going to go in, actually I'm going to use my beta blades. So remember, again, the beta blades are a 27 tooth texturizing blade. They are going to be the most aggressive. They're going to take out a lot of weight, but they're also going to give me a more chunky kind of feel in the hair. So we're really going to see a lot of texture with that, okay? So I'm going to just start right in through the top. And a lot of times when I go in and texturize, I feel like the section might be a little bit too big for me to work those blades through the right way, okay? So a great way to determine where you need to start texturizing the hair, and this is not even just for the ponytail technique, it's really just in general. When you hold the hair up, okay, if we go right up to those ends, see how that hair is standing straight up? But if I come down a little further, see how that hair then starts to bend? Now, I blew her out, I flat ironed her, there's product in her hair, so where that hair is going to start collapsing is going to be a little bit different just due to the fact that I kind of controlled it, okay? But I'm going to come down a little bit deeper with it. I'm going to go, there we go. And again, working with the beta blades, going to take one cut, slide it out, come through and bricklay that, okay? So I don't want to see a solid line. So see how all of that hair kind of released and we have more movement to it. Now at this point, I kind of look through it and just kind of see where I want to take off more texture. But this is exactly what you're looking for when you're doing a ponytail cut. So we've gone from something heavy, like my right hand, to something more loose and airy, like in my left hand, okay? So I'm gonna clamp it again out of my way and take the last little bit of that section. Again, kind of judge where that weight is, so where that hair is starting to collapse or bend just a little bit. Straight cut, slide my fingers, bricklay, 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 and then break up those ends. Okay, I feel like we need a little more out of the center, so I'm going to go for it. Moving on to the next one. Again, breaking it in half. We don't want it to be too much hair that we can't get a really good judge of the amount of texture that's going into each section. Kind of spread it out. Again, see where it's going to collapse. This one's going to be difficult. Okay, straight cut. Then we're going to start that bricklay and really just breaking through those ends so I don't see any concentration of weight or a really solid heavy line. Spread that out, see where it collapses. And then you can even take it all in one section. Make sure it's spreading out how you want it to. I'm just gonna detail it out a little bit more. Okay, so I just broke up a little bit more of that length in through the center. And then I actually did a color on my lovely model today. So I did that Friday, I think it was. And I just used the Rusk Deep Shine Permanent. I did the 6.66, so the red. And I used the Zero Lift. So I mixed it to be demi-like. And then I also did a really old school Rusk color placement. Not gonna lie, forgot to take pictures of it. So the color placement is, we call it our halo placement. And what it is that you're gonna make a section that's gonna kind of sit where a headband would sit, right? Just about a 1 inch wide parting right where a headband would sit. and then it kind of comes around through the bottom, right below the occipital bone. So I just did foils, you know, sliced foils out and did back to back, and I used the 7.44 copper in that section there. Okay, dividing that in half. Kind of shaking it out or spreading it out a little bit. Doing that again. See how that hair gets real pokey? Wouldn't you love it if big hair came back? I think it would be so fantastic. There was even talk, the actual video that I watched was a girl that she kind of did her hair like Farrah Fawcett. So it was all like that big feathering. I mean, I wasn't there to experience it, but I heard a lot about how people used to feather their hair back all of the time. So it would be nice for me to live that for the first time ever. Wink, wink. But there's something about big hair that it's just fun. One more. And remember, when you're doing this, you really want to keep your fingers moving and really have those blades bouncing around. We don't want it to get stuck in one spot. And I'm going to come down a little bit deeper with this one because I still feel like that one is a little heavy. So I'm going to go right in through the center and break that up. Getting those guys out of my way. Not that one. Spread that out. There just wasn't enough coming off. Okay, so we want these to all look like pom-poms or the top of a pineapple, but you really, again, you don't want to see a straight line in your ends. You want that to be all broken up. Okay, so now let's do this fringe area. This one's going to be a little bit more, I think we're going to just freehand this one a little. Did you see that? I almost took off my finger. Okay. So ready? This is the best part now. This is when the ponies come out. So you can either take them with your comb. I like to kind of slide them through my blades. These are the mannequin blades, so they're not as super important as real hair blades. the moment of truth. So we're just gonna shake it all out. And I'm gonna actually press these out. Those rubber bands left some indentations in her hair per se. So I wanna smooth those out. So I'm gonna use the Smooth Titanium Rusk Pro Flat Iron. So this, love this flat iron because it's got a really nice long kind of plate to it. So the plates are really nice and long, and the handle is long as well. So it allows me to just work through here a little bit easier. So I just want to remove some of these indentations here. And this will go up to 450 degrees. It heats up so quickly. So I honestly just turned it on about a minute or so ago, and we're ready to go. So keep in mind too that when I was prepping her, I also used, as I was using the flat iron, the thermal flat iron spray. Again, this is from the designer collection. It also has that orange cap, so it tells me that I'm going to be able to get the benefit of product without that heavy feel of product in the hair. So that is already in her hair, so I'm not worried about applying any more. I didn't think about ponytail indentations today. Okay, so you can see how that really created a lot of volume by using that technique, by using the ponytail technique. And I don't know, big hair. I'm hoping it's the new jam. Then I'm just going to give this fringe a little bit of bend. And like I said, you can do this technique on, wet or dry hair. Then I'm going to use some of the Polish 03 from the Rusk Pro line just to separate it out, give it a little bit of shine. And hopefully that'll help to kind of pull this down a little bit too. So she was sitting for quite some time this morning with her rubber bands getting ready. So I want to just remind you guys that there is always great information on the Rusk Deep Shine Color Stylist chat. on Facebook, so you guys can go in if you're not already part of that. A lot of educators are on that page. So if you have questions, we're always happy to help you in any way that we can. A lot of great formulations, even from, you know, just non-educator stylists that are out there that are using the color. You can follow me if you want on Instagram at Sharie, SHARIE _.com or _Rusk on Instagram. All right. So that's that. And like I said, remember too, every Monday and Friday, we've got more great lives. It's a little too big. Yeah, Monday and Friday, great other lives, all of the fantastic educators that really take time out of their busy lives to get on here and kind of share information with you in a new way. Since the whole COVID ordeal, it's kind of a great way to get some education, get some inspiration. All right, so then I'm just going to use a little bit of the Rusk weightless spray just to kind of finish it, put everything into place. All right, so here is the finished look. Okay, so we've created a lot of volume. We still have that heavier weighted perimeter to it. And again, the color 6.66 red as my base, and then I did the 7.44 copper throughout